The Weeknd is easily the biggest superstar in music right now. He might be second in Spotify monthly listeners to Bruno Mars, I'm pretty sure. I think Bruno Mars has 150 million to The Weeknd's 117 million. But I feel like the world genuinely changes when The Weeknd drops. Something is in the air when The Weeknd makes an appearance at a show or anything, really. He's dropped 10 projects, at least, I'm pretty sure 10. Yeah, I counted right, 10, which conveniently is the same amount that Quentin Tarantino is going to have before he retires. That'll come back in a second. But as of right now, The Weeknd, in terms of his solo career, is looking like it's going to be over, ending with what the album dropped this year, Hurry Up Tomorrow. I really like the album, but I'm not going to spoil the placement of it on this project. But a little hint, it's one of his best. The Weeknd has never really dropped a bad project, in my opinion. But there are definitely some that are weaker than others. And now that this excellent career, probably one of the greatest runs by a singer, any artist at all in music, probably one of the greatest runs that we will ever see in our lifetimes, I want to sit here and I want to rank them. I want to talk about the smaller parts. I want to just explore his discography. Really is the main excuse to do this, is just to talk about his albums. I'm a huge The Weeknd fan, but I recognize certain lows, but I also recognize some of the highest highs that we've ever seen in music. And I want to rank The Weeknd. Number 10, Kissland. Fresh off of The Weeknd's trilogy, which really blown him onto the scene, he immediately followed that with Kissland, which is, to me, this might ruffle feathers, not a bad album by any means. It is good, and I do genuinely like it. But it is definitely the weakest out of any The Weeknd project. And before going into this is actually not what I came out expecting. Actually, in a couple places, is the album I expected to be my least favorite, because I had never actually sat down and listened to Kissland from beginning to end. And it's just the weakest one out of all of them. And from content, like lyrical-wise, to the production, to his singing, to me, everything, even from the entire trilogy, just feels like a solid little step down. The album, to me, doesn't even necessarily start off great, with Professional just being, like, sounding weaker to me. His singing just isn't as good. It doesn't hit for me. The Town does come back and is pretty good. And there's a nice 3-track run: The Town, Adaptation, and Love in the Sky. Love in the Sky, if I had to pick that or Wanderlust, is probably one of my two favorites. And then it kind of goes back down from Belong to the World and Live For, with a weaker Drake collaboration, which I was very surprised with. And then the album doesn't really end that great for me with Kissland, Pretty, and Tears in the Rain. I am automatically, one of my first problems, I am not a humongous fan of songs longer than 5 minutes. I'm really not fans of them longer than 4.5. When they're done right, I can enjoy them. But for me personally, the amount of songs on here that are all so freaking long, and that just doesn't resonate with me. I'm not good enough. My attention span is admittedly not good enough to sit there and listen to a 7-minute song, which there are 2 of, by the way. 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes, 4.5 minutes, 5 minutes. The only song in here that is below 4 minutes is the song with Drake. And that song is one of the weaker ones, but I do enjoy a smaller runtime. And I can't dive into that too much because this album is only 10 tracks long, which in another case would kind of maybe warrant these 10 track, or these almost freaking 1,000,000-minute track length songs, but it doesn't, because they don't feel fleshed out enough to me. The 3-track run from The Town, Adaptation, and Love in the Sky also kind of sets up what I thought was going to be a great project, and kind of just makes it die down, because the rest of it just isn't as good, besides Wanderlust. I do like Wanderlust, but if Wanderlust wasn't here, then this would have been a almost 6-song track run of just kind of okay music. Like I said, this album is not bad. It by any means. I would still call it good. I stand by what I said, that The Weeknd probably doesn't have a bad project. This one is just worse than the rest of them. There has to be a last and certainly least. And this is Kissland to me. A not as fleshed out Weeknd project, a not as experimental, especially the way I listen to these. I listen to him from his first project to his last, and going off of Trilogy, which I'll get more in detail on my opinions of each of the Trilogy albums when I get into them, they feel a lot more experimental to me compared to Kissland, and he almost like tried to be the most basic version of what the Weeknd could be. And even lyrically, content-wise, like him talking about the gift and curse of just being nonchalant, and just him as a person, trying to break down who he is as a person, just doesn't resonate with me because I feel like he doesn't do it as well as he does in future projects, or as he did as well as in early projects. You know? It's just not as good. However, there are other projects that I do think are worse than in certain aspects than Kissland, especially the next one. But this one, to me, just feels the most boring. And it's not even boring. I need to clear that up. Whenever I say bad things about these albums, do not take me as thinking that they're bad. I would still give Kissland probably a 7 out of 10. Actually, no, I'd give it more of a 6. But, like I said, not bad. Just, it's not as good as the rest of the Weeknd's catalog. Number 9, Thursday. The second installation in the trilogy, which was, in this case, his second project. Like I said, I do have to be clear when talking about these and make it clear that I do not think these projects, just because they're at the bottom, does not make them bad. I like Thursday pretty good, but it is the second to weakest project in the Weeknd catalog. I actually sat down and thought about this one a lot, because the album in the next spot was very close to being in this one, and who knows, by the end of this video, I might change my mind and I might edit the video, or I'll upload it and be like, the next spot, yeah, I think Thursday should be there instead of that one. But this album has some of the lower lows of the Weeknd's catalog, including parts of The Birds Part 2, Rolling Stone, and Thursday, this actual song Thursday. These are not that good songs. And there are also some other problems with songs that I like. Again, there is a problem. I'm not the biggest fan of 5-minute long songs. The song with Drake is 7 minutes, and it's not good enough to be 7 minutes. It's good for about 3, and then it kind of dives back off. Life of the Party is a song that is really good for the first few minutes, and then by the time it's about 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes, it's going on to 5. It's too long. But this is also some of the most experimental, and you can really tell the Weeknd is trying to discover his voice and discover who he is in his sound. The Birds reminds me of like songs off of Beauty Behind the Madness. Life of the Party, like I said, is a very rock inspired song. Lonely Star is a very beautiful song. What's another one? Rolling Stone, even though it's one of the weaker ones in my opinion, is really good. Heaven or Las Vegas is an amazing outro. Even though I do think it's too long, I think it's great. Another one that kind of sells this one is only being 9 songs. I feel like it doesn't have enough time to expand on its idea and expand on what it wants to be. But part of it is also because, this isn't a bad thing, part of some of the positives is I think this album sonically sounds amazing. Like him experimenting with his voice and really seeing what it can do and putting it behind production and stuff, like different kinds of production that he doesn't really do anymore, is really cool. I really like that. Just seeing an early The Weeknd him discover himself is amazing. But this is kind of a problem that I have with a little bit of kind of all of the trilogy albums, all 3 of them, is they kind of feel like they are saying the same thing with a little bit of a different twist on it, and this one just kind of feels the most ununique out of those twists. What I'm getting at is, for example, the whole like she doesn't like you're a good girl, but like if you hang out with us you're gonna be bad, like the drugs and parties, it's all gonna get to you. You know what I mean? And he's kind of saying that over and over again, but in different ways. You know what I mean? Or he's expanding upon this idea. It's the same general theme, just kind of said in different ways and looked at in a different angle, kind of. It's hard to explain. You kind of have to listen to it to kind of get what I'm saying a lot. But that, as a whole, does not make this project bad. That is a topic that he is very good at singing about. but I'm also kind of glad that his music definitely evolved from this point, because this kind of, for 3 albums in a row, was kind of like, just kind of got on my nerves a little bit, because I wanted to hear him talk about something different, like The Birds, part 1 and 2, for an example, is literally in the hook. Like, they don't want you to get with someone like me. You shouldn't want to get with someone like me because of what I'll do to you. What will become because of me. What I do is what you're going to start doing. He kind of says that over and over again. You know what I mean? That is a big part of this album. That is a big theme of this album. And the whole trilogy. And I'm trying to stop talking about the trilogy as its own album, because obviously it's all 3 of them. But this album also just feels kind of unfinished, but that's not its fault. It's the second in this trilogy, but it's definitely stronger than Kissland. It's more interesting than Kissland. It's more unique than Kissland, which, like I said when I was talking about Kissland, take a shot every time I say Kissland. I bet you'll die. Anyway, like I was saying about Kissland, take another shot. It just kind of sounded basic, the most basic The Weeknd sounding. But even though he's in this early version and his early experimenting, his voice still sounds beautiful. His voice in Lonely Star sounds beautiful. This demonic take on, like, almost wish he would try and sound more like he does on Life of the Party every once in a while, because it sounds so unique. He doesn't make music like that anymore, and I wish I knew why. It sounds amazing. It sounds so freaking good. I wish he would do it more often. I love the way the Life of the Party sounds, but like I said, it's just a little too long, you know what I mean? But that's why it's at number 9. There are lows on this project. There's lows on every single song, but the highs are so high. But let's get to the next one that I thought was going to be at this spot. That before I went into this, the next spot is what I thought would be the worst project by far. Number 8, Starboy. This is the album that, before I went into this, before listening to every single one of his albums, that I actually didn't like the least. Or I worded that wrong. Wow. I didn't like it. This was the one I thought would be the weakest. And after re-listening to it as part of this video, it's honestly grown on me a little bit. This album is not as bad as I thought it was. It never was bad, actually. Let me reword that. Not as bad for The Weeknd. How about that? What if I word it like that? This album starts off very strong. There's a reason Starboy's probably his most streamed song. It's really good. The Daft Punk production. I'm a Starboy. There's a reason it's got 3 billion streams on Spotify. Like, it's a good song. And Party Monster is a song that I really like after that. And then we kind of go on this 3-track run of songs that aren't awful, but that I just couldn't really get behind. False Alarm, Reminder, Rockin'. Then we come back with Secrets and True Colors, 2 songs I like pretty good. I really like True Colors. Stargirl Interlude isn't as good as I wanted it to be. Sidewalks with Kendrick Lamar is not a bad song, but it definitely disappointed me. 6 Feet Under is a song that me and my girlfriend really like. Love Delay is okay. It's not great. A Lonely Night is also kind of just okay. Attention is a pretty good song. And then Ordinary Life and Nothing Without You are kind of the same as the last 2 that I said were just okay. And All I Know with Future. The Weeknd and Future, I don't think I have a single song that I don't like. Die For You is decent, and I Feel It Coming is another really good banger. This is definitely the most poppy that we've seen The Weeknd, and I think that we've seen since. Because I don't really count After Hours as poppy. I count After Hours as something entirely different. But this is definitely his most, mainstream sounding, I guess. Almost the most easiest to get a hit out of kind of sound. It's just very poppy. And part of me doesn't like that. This is kind of the most boring, basic version of The Weeknd that we could have got. And I know I said that about Kissland, but it's... Okay, Kissland as a whole is more boring. I think the sound of Starboy is more boring, if that makes sense. I think this is done better than Kissland, but that doesn't make the sound any less boring. I don't see... There's no uniqueness. You know what I'm saying? There's no him really trying to do stuff. The most that he's trying to do, I mean, is Starboy. Hearing him kind of make this poppy type sound is good. All I know is it, although it is long, don't get me wrong, all I know is way too long. And this album as a whole is 18 songs. It's well over an hour. That's a long album for The Weeknd when it's just mostly pop songs. But I also noticed that after this is a big change for The Weeknd, and I feel like the sound from this and what he heard from this album is the reason he did that change. Don't quote me on that. That's just a feeling. That's just a strong feeling. But I still like this album. It's not bad by any means. It just, I probably will never ever listen to it from start to finish again. And there's definitely the most amount of songs that I can kind of point at and be like, that's just kind of okay. But that's also a curse of it being longer. This is 18 songs. This is one of his longer projects, especially after the ones I've talked about. Kissland was only 10 and Thursday was only 9, and then you jump immediately to 18 songs. That 18 is definitely part of the reason it is not as good. And I know I might contradict myself on that in a couple. Definitely on Hurry Up Tomorrow. I'll definitely contradict myself. A little spoiler alert. But I am glad that The Weeknd is out of this poppy sound. I do think he does it well, with that kind of, especially the production on like Party Monster and Starboy. These are the best two examples on the project. Probably the best two songs on the album are the best two examples of him doing it right. But there's other points where I feel like it kind of restricts him. This kind of pop sound restricts him where he can't really just be him. He can't sing his heart out, or like, not necessarily that, but like, he just can't do what he wants to do. He feels restricted. This album feels, it could have been better. Make some of these songs not as poppy. It could have been better. But I do definitely get why this album is so popular, or why a lot of the songs on here became his biggest hits. I Feel It Coming is one of his biggest hits. 6 Feet Under is one of his biggest hits. Starboy is one of his biggest hits. So was Party Monster. So was the song with Future. The song with Kendrick Lamar is huge. There's a reason they're huge, is because they are the most formulaic. Album is pretty formulaic. That's a very good word I feel like to put. A lot of these songs are formulaic, like they're just trying to get hits. You know what I mean? Like he's just throwing it at a dartboard, trying to get a hit off of it. And it just because he's The Weeknd, it's not going to be bad, but it's just noticeable. That's what it feels like. On to the next album. This is where we kind of get into ones that I have a stronger feeling towards. Number 7, Dawn FM. This is probably last of the kind of the weaker of his discography, and once we get to the next one is a lot more positive. This is a impressive album. It also kind of has a poppy sound, but you also have to kind of accept the level of disappointment. Even though this project is good, it is a pretty good album, especially for The Weeknd. Actually, not especially for The Weeknd. I'm an idiot. Don't pretend I didn't say that. Anyway, this came right after Hours, which is in competition to be one of The Weeknd's best projects. So obviously, standards high. They've been set to the highest level. Expectations have been set to the highest level. And this just kind of didn't scratch the itch, at least for me. This album starts off very strong. Dawn FM, Gasoline, How Do I Make You Love Me. The Tyler, the Creator verse is really good on here. And overall, this album, like After Hours, is still able to feel like a complete story. A actual telling of events. Just a start to end. However, sonically, it does take a step down from an album like After Hours, or really any of the albums on this list. I do like hearing him kind of diverge from the pop sound a little bit, but it's still a little too, pop sounding, too boppy. And it is done a lot better than it is done in Starboy. And I know I contradict myself because obviously I've ranked After Hours really high, but I feel like he does it better on that album. But anyway, we'll get to that whenever we talk about it. But this is also probably the album that I have genuinely the least amount to say about it, because it doesn't resonate with me as much, and I don't necessarily have as many reasons. It just kind of doesn't really hit for me. A couple songs are too long, and it's not even like I dislike these songs, really. It's just more of, they're just not really what I want them to be, I don't guess. It's cool hearing him with Lil Wayne. It's cool hearing him with Tyler, the Creator. Phantom Regret by Jim is cool. Less Than Zero is okay. Best Friends is probably one of the worst songs on the project. A Tale by Quincy is cool. I like, there was one that I was definitely about to say I liked. Is it Take My Breath? It was Take My Breath. But just some of a lot of this album, some of the lows aren't necessarily lows, they're just kind of nothing. They kind of go by. And I don't really know where that comes from for me. I've always kind of been confused why I don't like this one as much, but I just don't. And I don't really know why. It's hard to explain. It feels like the most least tightly knit. Because the next the next album on here, y'all might be kind of confused why I have it over this one, especially whenever I get into my reasons. But this just feels like the weakest of the new Weeknd. The weakest, the most not unconventional, most unrealized, the most packed in, the most restrained. When, it feels like he just really wants to break out, but this album, it's definitely going to be the least that I talk about one because it's the least that I have to say. Number 6, House of Balloons. Now, I know, you are definitely asking, how in the world can I like The Weeknd's very first project over some of these other ones that feel more definitely sonically realized by him? And that's where I question you. Do you have nostalgia? I really love hearing the beginning of The Weeknd, the beginning of the trilogy. This is amazing. This is really cool, seeing the start of what eventually became After Hours, what eventually became Hurry Up Tomorrow, what eventually became Beauty Behind the Madness. This is 9 of really experimental The Weeknd trying to figure out who he is. And that is amazing to me. This album starts off strong with High for This, House of Balloons / Glass Table Girls. The Party and the After Party is a great song. There are no misses on here. This is probably the start of the list where I genuinely start to think that this is where it gets great. I completely understand how The Weeknd could pop up on the scene like he did. If I heard this back in 2011, this album changed R&B for a while. The Weeknd's influence is you can really hear it. You can hear it on this project. You can hear the beginning of a behemoth, the beginning of a superstar, and it is really, really cool to hear. A lot of just beautiful sounding music. I want to get this project on vinyl. I really do. Now, I do realize there's kind of a boob in the freaking album cover, so I hope I don't get demonetized for that. Not demonetized, age restricted. I didn't even realize that the boob was there, but there's a boob, oh no. Anyway, this album does kind of suffer from the trilogy problems, that it does feel like it's the same, theme and generalization of the whole, concept of, you don't want to hang out with us, you don't want to be with us because we party too hard, baby. We're going to get you on drugs, you're going to be a party girl, you're going to do all this and that. God, you're so evil. I'm a bad person, but this is a little toxic thing we got going on. I want you, though. That whole general concept stretches, starts in House of Balloons. It stretches across the whole trilogy. I do think it's kind of the most blandish that it is on this first project, because it almost doesn't feel like The Weeknd knows how to discuss it. He doesn't know how to explore it yet. Had to pause for a sec because a girlfriend texted me, and I just realized that this video is definitely probably going to be an hour long. But anyway, that's what I'm here for. There is kind of the same problem that I've 9 songs. It kind of doesn't really, the full idea doesn't feel as realized in this one alone. I know it does eventually get realized with the 3 albums, but when I'm listening to this one on its own, the idea isn't fully realized. The concept isn't closed out. It's kind of just 9 of the same, general theme. And by the way, 9 songs is pretty good. Only one of them, actually, no, never mind, I'm lying. No, crap, I lied a lot. This album does not feel as long as it is, or it doesn't, which I'm saying this in a good way. These really long songs do not feel as long as they are. The House of Balloons / Glass Table Girls does not feel like an almost 7-minute song. The Party and the After Party actually does kind of feel like it's really long, but it's really good, so I don't mind it. But the rest of these are also pretty good. I actually definitely want to get this one on vinyl. Would be really cool to have the House of Balloons on vinyl. I think, me personally, I want to, I already want Hurry Up Tomorrow on vinyl. Anyway, so like I was saying, Wicked Games, this Wicked Games is a classic. I had heard this before, and I didn't even realize that was an early The Weeknd song. He's already realizing, like, that is also the best example. Like, girl, bring the drugs, and I'll bring the pain. You know what I mean? Like, that is kind of the theme, kind of just summed up of what I was talking about earlier. Like, this toxic relationship, this, like, girl, you don't want to hang with us, you don't want to be with us, we're gonna mess you up. You know what I mean? Or like, if you do, you're gonna get addicted to partying, you're gonna get addicted to drugs. It's cool hearing him discuss it, because The Weeknd, also, his voice just is beautiful, and the way he talks about these things is beautiful. But whenever you're hearing the same thing over and over again, it kind of just feels a little, like, come on now, like, I've been here for like 45 minutes and we ain't really got nowhere. That's the only real problem I have with this project, and the runtime. Like I said, like, track-wise, anyway, only 9 songs is kind of just a little small. If you could have made the tracks themselves shorter, but like maybe 13, and kind of closed out the project concept and the idea of it, definitely would have been better. But you also have to look at this as how amazing this is for his first, like, this is his debut album. And it's amazing. A debut album, and you are the Weeknd. You know what I mean? Like, how crazy is that? That's so bonkers to me, man. The 9 songs. All it took was 9 songs, and boom, we got The Weeknd. How does that happen? I love this project, but whenever we get to number 5, this is where I get to really, 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 really loving them. Number 5, Echoes of Silence. This album for sure feels like the cover. Like I'm under this red light at this crazy party. And hold on one sec, let me scroll to it. Holy crap. Anyway, this album also has the best start, and probably one of the best songs out of the entire trilogy album, DD. Very good intro, very good song. But the whole mystique and aura of this album, like the coloration, the way, the imagery almost, is what makes this one work so well for me. This is the first album that so far out of his whole discography, if you go like date wise, this one came out in, when did this come out? 2011? Yeah, this one also came out in 2011. This definitely feels like the most complete / realized of who The Weeknd is. And this is where he really found his sound. It for sure sounds the most sonically there, and just the most complete, most consistent, especially. Because, like, you go from DD to Montreal to Outside to EXO, The Host, to Initiation. Same Old Song is great. The Ball is great. Next is great. Echoes of Silence is great. And it feels like the cover. It feels like, I know one of the images I'm using is, like, red with the red balloons. It feels like that. You know what I mean? That's what it feels like. And it's just so complete. Like, the production is insane. It's not necessarily as experimental as the first 2 were with, like, what he was trying to, like, make himself sound, or, like, the sound he was shooting for. But it feels the most kind of like After Hours, but on a different angle. Again, kind of doing with the whole same subject matter and the whole same themes and concepts, but not necessarily from a different angle. But this is the ending of that. This is the completion. This album feels more complete than the other 2 do. Out of the rest of the trilogy and out of any other album I've talked about, this feels the most complete. It feels the most realized, the most like he's finally done holding back. He's done from the lashes of a concept, or like the trilogy. What these 3 albums are is one big long concept album turned into 3, but it kind of doesn't work because of that, because they're split up into 3 different albums. This one definitely by itself works the most out of the 3. By itself works the best. From beginning to end, it actually feels more like it has an intro to an outro. kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it just, obviously, it still feels like, the trilogy feels like one big movie. You know, I know I'm talking about the trilogy more as a whole instead of just this album, but this definitely feels like the third movie. I'm trying to think of I'm trying to think of like an actual like movie series where like the third one feels like the best one. Like, I mean, if the Weeknd's like trilogy is like his Star Wars, then this definitely feels like the third Star Wars movie. 110%. Like, this is him. You know, this is really where he puts it into gear. This is where he figures out what he wants to sound like. And I also think that's really cool to realize in real time. And listening to it, listening from like the beginning of the now I've listened from the start of the Weeknd's career to the end of his career, especially if this is the last like Hurry Up Tomorrow, especially if that is the last project he ever drops by himself as the Weeknd. Seeing the beginning to the end of his career, this is where he figures it out. This is where, in my opinion, the Weeknd becomes the Weeknd. And I love this album. It also kind of says something. I love this album as much as I do, and I don't think I can say anything negative about it right now. This is only number 5. It only goes up from here. I love all the other projects more than this. I almost rank this number 4, but I like number 4 just a little teensy bit more right now. Right now. I might feel the other way around tomorrow. I love the DD. I love the intro to this Echoes of Silence so much, and I love the outro so much. Just, it feels so complete. It feels large. It feels bigger, you know what I mean, than the other two do. The other two feel kind of more contained, and like I said earlier, it just feels like he's finally let out. He's letting his voice work itself. And like I said, DD is the best beginning example of that. Montreal is a great example of that. Initiation is a great example of that. Echoes of Silence, the outro, where he just is letting that voice ring, and his voice is beautiful, guys. The Weeknd sounds like a freaking angel, bro. How can you not love this project? How could you not love The Weeknd when he has albums like this, and this is his 5th best? This is his 5th best? I love Echoes of Silence, if you can't tell. I literally love it. Number 4, My Dear Melancholy. This is really random, and this has nothing to do with the album, but I love, like, seeing, like, the color scale grading things, like, next to the album titles. I think that is so cool. I think that's such a fun little thing that he does, that he did for a few of his albums. Like, the trilogies all have that in the titles, and that little promotional image had it. But My Dear Melancholy is probably another one of the ones that I'll talk about the least, but not because of it being bad. It's one of my favorite albums. This is, I think, the only one that I had absolutely no idea what it sounded like. I had never heard a song from it, but no one told me this was as good as it was. I love My Dear Melancholy a lot. A lot. From beginning to end. Call Out My Name is so beautiful. The 2 songs produced by am I saying that right? Gessa Felstein. Yes, I actually knew who that was from that song, the song he has with Casey. But anyway, I love them. These are like 6, it's just 6 songs. It's 7 if you include the cappella at the end. And that's the only real reason I won't be able to talk about it as long, because I can't gush about 6 songs as much as I'm going to gush about 18 or 20 like I'm going to in a few minutes. But I love this project from beginning to end. Like, him discussing and him singing about how bad of a person he is and how sorry he is for the stuff that he has done. But he also can't change. He can't. And there's something so beautiful about that. And there's just, it also ties into the next project and, like, really every project he's dropped after that, the type of person he is. I love this song. I love his singing on this project. I love how dark it feels, how sad it feels, how it feels lifeless but on purpose. It feels dead on purpose, but it is in a good way. Like, it's done in a very well. It's done very well to where it's enjoyable, and it's not like I'm saying, this album lacks life. I'm not saying that on purpose. It's filled with dead life, like, I guess is a good way to say it. I really don't know. This is a very different vibe, in my opinion, but more so the same vibe, actually, but, like, just in a way different manner than we've seen The Weeknd tackle it in the rest of these projects. This is one that almost feels like a different version of Beauty Behind the Madness, more of a dead version, more of a lifeless version, more of a sorrow version. That's better than dead or lifeless. That's a better word. Sorrow. Sorrowful. It's in the name. My Dear Melancholy. You know, he's talking about himself. This album is very introspective. I love it. I plan on getting it on vinyl if one is out there. This is another one. Dude, I'm gonna go broke on vinyls. I swear to God, I will. Anyway, I love this project. I really do. I love every little bit of it. Wasted Times is a banger. If I had to pick a favorite, it is probably I Was Never There or Call Out My Name or Privilege. And the capella at the end. The capella sounds great. No introductions, just him no productions, just him singing is beautiful. I wish he had one of those for every single one of his songs. He's a beautiful singer. But that's nothing y'all don't already know. But like I said, only 6 songs. It still feels like the perfect length, and me complaining about it being short isn't even necessarily a complaint that makes it any worse. It's more so I wish it had more amazing songs. You know, I wish there was a 10 straight just beautiful, beautiful bangers, but it also feels like it's the right length because this type of concept could have got boring. And I guess we'll never know. 3, After Hours. This right here, at least, is the first album from The Weeknd in my memory of seeing a rollout like this. This had been 2 years since My Dear Melancholy, and I want to say, 4 years since, like, Starboy, since anything more than just a 6-song little EP type thing that My Dear Melancholy was. This is the first time seeing one of his rollouts, it like actually being able to witness it, and it was really it's awesome. It was really cool seeing his outfit, seeing the style choices. Hearing Heartless for the first time is something I'll never forget. Blinding Lights is a banger, beautiful song. And then going into the album After Hours, seeing the cover, everything about this album feels so complete, feels so purposeful. Which, because it is, like, this is a movie. This is, like, After Hours is a movie. It is not, I don't look at it as a traditional musical, like, it's a movie. It starts off so depressing. This is a depressing album. It really is. Concept-wise, it's depressing. But, excuse me, every time I eat my chips, I start talking and then I burp. I'm really sorry. I'm also laying down to get a little more comfy. I've been making this video for freaking 2 days. Anyway, Snow Child is another one of my favorites. What's another one of my favorites? Honestly, I want to say Hardest to Love. There's another one. Escape from LA. That's another really banger where he's talking about smashing a girl in the or cheating on his girl in the studio. But this is just a brilliant story to me because this is a terrible person trying his best to not be a terrible person for this girl, for his love, and like him wanting to leave his area because he feels like that's the only way he can be who he was. You know, I love that. I love that type of sound, and it's kind of, him being a terrible person is not a unique concept to The Weeknd, or not a unique concept of him singing, like a topic of him singing about, but it's definitely the way that he goes about it on this project, and him really going into detail as he does on this one, is this is unique. That specifically is unique, and he's able to do it to its fullest. This is a fully realized concept, easily. Him trying with this girl, trying every little thing, and then just failing over and over again. It's just, that's what it is. And then at the end of it, Until I Bleed Out, is a beautiful beautiful outro to the project. This is 14, very, very well placed. Like, this whole project, like, it's just, I can go on and on and on, because that's basically what I'm doing, is going on and on and on about how complete it sounds, how just purposeful every lyric, every melody sounds so purposeful, sounds so full of punch, so full of meaning. Even if not every little line does have full of meaning, it feels like it. it feels so so heartfelt, so sad, you know? And that is what made it this. Whenever this dropped, people was like, yeah, this is it. This right here, this is it. This is the best that we've got from the Weeknd, let alone in a while, ever. Because this album is it. This is what really, he was already a superstar, but this is what really set him aside from the rest of the superstars. He produced, not produced. He this is the I think this is the year that he hosted the Super Bowl halftime show as well. Just beautiful. Blinding Lights is a humongous song, one of his biggest songs to date. It's not as big as Starboy, but it's definitely up there. Just production wise, it's so beautiful. His singing is so beautiful. His voice is so heartfelt, so full of regret, so full of pain, and it sounds so beautiful. A lot of beautiful melodies, a lot of beautiful singing. I can go on and on and on about how amazing I think this project is. Every bit of it. All the production, the Mike Dean, the Metro Boomin. Metro Boomin on like Heartless is such a good choice, you know. Me and Metro turned this shit into a mosh pit, you know, like perfect. Sounds so perfect. And its placement in the album ties into the greater theme. And just like everything is so purposeful. Oh my god, I can say it over and over again. I love it. I love this album so much. Number 2, Hurry Up Tomorrow. If this does turn out to be the very last project, at least for a long time, by The Weeknd, at least under the name The Weeknd, it'd be okay. Because this is genuinely about the best way to end your career. An album like this. You starting off an album with Wake Me Up, an amazing, beautiful song, and then immediately to Cry For Me, a huge, big feeling song, and then you go into I Can't Fucking Sing, even better. And then you go into Sad Palo, which is a song that I wasn't the biggest fan of whenever it dropped as a single, but its place in the album, the way it transitions and the way it like fits in this project, makes it like 5 times better. Baptized in Fear is a freaking awesome song. Oh my god, I love Baptized in Fear. I love Opening the Night. Reflections, Laughing is amazing. Enjoying the Show, I love Future on there. Giving Up on Me, I can't wait to get there. Timeless is better on this project. I love Niagara Falls. Take Me Back to LA, the way it ties back into After Hours. Reminiscing over the time and over the relationship he had in After Hours, even though at the time he wanted to leave it. Reminiscing about it is amazing. The immediate thing is like the way this album transitions together. It feels like one complete, even more. You can tell this is what he's been building towards. He's been always talking about like how Hurry Up Tomorrow and Dawn FM and After Hours were a trilogy. It was his last trilogy. You can tell this is the ending point, and you can just really tell. The only problem I have with it is that it's 22 songs, but that's not even the biggest problem, because if this is your last project, give us everything you got. Literally everything you got. Make it 30 songs. Give us every little bit and piece of music you have left in your body. Give it to us. Give Me Mercy is an amazing song. Without a Warning, great. The outro, the ending of this album is the beginning of House of Balloons, is so poetic, and you go back to where it all started. It's full circle. How can you not enjoy that? How could you ain't human if you don't love an album like this, if you don't love the story of this, if you just don't look. I've been gushing over the weekend for like almost a 40, this what will probably end up being about a 15-minute video. I've just been sitting here gushing about the Weeknd, and I don't feel bad at all. I mean, shoot, I really don't feel bad at all. I love this album. Being able to like feel the hype for it, being able to listen to it immediately. I have a friend who actually I think he's already went to go see the Weeknd live, or at least he is soon. I'm so jealous of him. He's going to get to see Cry For Me live. Cry For Me is definitely my favorite song off this project. It's such a good banger. Just the sound of all of these, like the different, like the variation, you know, the Enjoy a Show is like this beautiful, like with that sample in the background, beautiful singing. The Reflections, Laughing, the first part of it, having that guitar and then that little interlude at the end, and then Travis coming in at the end of it. Just such good. It's such good. That's not a word. I had a video about Timeless, about how I thought it could have been better. Its placement in the project makes it a lot better, and it's kind of a niche song. Like, it kind of like, it's good little background. It's definitely like catchy. It's a very catchy song. It gets stuck in your head so easy. It's weird. I do not like the use of AI vocals on Playboy Cardi's verse. I don't like it at all. If that is actually an official thing, it shouldn't be a thing at all. It shouldn't. That's a whole different concept. Not a concept. That's a whole different topic for a whole different video. Long story short, though, let's try and keep that out of music, please. But anyway, I love this album. I love it. I love the use of features. I love One Last Future collab. I love One Last Travis Scott collab. I love Lana Del Rey on The Abyss. That's pretty cool. Anita, they worked surprisingly great together. You know, I almost can't complain about it. There's literally almost nothing wrong I can say. I'm pretty sure I literally gave the album a 10 out of 10 on the review for this channel, so you kind of probably knew this was definitely going to be very high on the list. But it's not the highest. It's the second best. And if you are akin to The Weeknd, you definitely know what the first is. And it shouldn't be no surprise. Number 1, The Beauty Behind the Madness. I had always knew The Weeknd was really good, and I'd always really liked The Weeknd, but this album for me specifically is what made me a fan. Hearing the intro, Real Life, like for the first time is so good. Hearing just this introspective this is literally just him talking to himself, mostly. He does talk to another female quite a little bit, but him dealing with, like, I know I'm an awful person. I know it. Like, I literally know I'm an awful person, and I kind of like it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Excuse me again, but this is what I really love in music. I love when a singer or a rapper, that's one of the reasons I love Future so much. I love it when you know you're bad. I love it. You know you're a piece of shit. You know it, and you like it. You like it, and you don't plan on stopping. Real Life is him really singing about it. Like, this is real life. You know what I mean? Losers, cool little Labyrinth feature, tell your friends. But when this album really kicks in, is this 4-track run is genuinely probably the best 4-track run I've ever heard. And if it's not I've ever heard, it's top 4, top 3, and it ain't 3, honestly. Often is an amazing. I have a thing for sex songs. I really do. And, this is one of them. This is one of the best ones I ever heard. This started my little freakiness, you know what I mean? This freaking freak-tastic song. I love it. I've made out to this song. I've done a lot of things to this song, and I plan on doing it again, And then The Hills. This is another one of The Weeknd's superstar moments. This perfect song, This is one of the first Weeknd songs I ever heard, or knew it was The Weeknd, you know what I mean? This song was huge. Very, very huge. I still listen to it today. It's a very good song. I still listen to this album all the time, by the way. And then you go into Acquainted, a beautiful song that reminds me of my girlfriend, not in a sexual way, but in a more loving way, in a more I'm glad we're together way. I'm so glad we met. And it's dangerous the way we feel about each other, but God, I'm glad. I ain't afraid of it. I'm glad we feel this way. And then it goes into Can't Feel My Face, which obviously, you can say he's talking to a girl, but the main point of it is he's talking about cocaine or he's talking about drugs. The other thing, the person he's talking about is drugs. And even though this kind of falls back into the poppy sound, Can't Feel My Face does, and it feels like, the most formulaic of trying to get a hit, I love this song. It deserves the popularity, it deserves being as popular as it is because it's freaking amazing. Shameless, I know that's kind of the end of the run, but Shameless in between here is a great song still. And then Earned It, 50 Shades of Grey is another fantastic song. You go into a little weaker In the Night and As You Are, two little weaker songs. They're still really good, but weaker in terms of the whole project. And then Dark Times, a perfect Ed Sheeran song. A really good Ed Sheeran feature, hit The Weeknd. One of my favorite parts is like him talking about how only a mother can love him, or only a mother can love someone like me. in my dark times, in this time that I'm in. You know, only my mother could love me right now. And that's so cool. And then you end it off with Prisoner and Angel. A perfect end to a perfect album, in my opinion. This album, to me, is one of the first, not a single skip. This is perfect. From beginning to end, it is perfection. Beauty Behind the Madness is the beauty behind his life. It's the beauty behind him. And it ain't so beautiful. It's dark. It's like My Dear Melancholy. It's sorrowful. So that's not a word. Anyway, I love this album. It's, as you can tell, the reasons I've gave and the reasons I gave why just like the other ones or don't like them as much. This is, it's always going to be my number one. It holds that special place to my heart. I relate to it. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. You know what I mean? I feel everything The Weeknd is saying. I love this album. If this is the end of The Weeknd's career, I'm glad I finally told the world how I feel about his music and how ranking his 10 projects. He's never made a bad album. Obviously, there has to be at least in like a last and least and a second to last and a third to last and a second to best that might be your best or a third to best that might be your last. You know, anyone's opinion could be different. I automatically know not everyone's favorite album by him is going to be Beauty Behind the Madness. I know that. But music is subjective, and that's the beauty behind The Weeknd, is because I don't blame you for feeling that way about whichever one is your favorite. I can't blame you. I honestly partly agree. I could see it. I can see any of these albums being anyone's favorite except Kissland. I don't really see how Kissland could be anyone's favorite. Anyway, I love you guys. I know it took a while for me to actually get this video out, but I'm very glad I did. I'm glad y'all know how I feel about these albums. If you made it to the end of the video, then I greatly appreciate it. If you want to show a little bit of support, obviously hit the subscribe button and the like. If you want to, you can maybe join the Patreon for as little as $1.50 a month. You can get videos early. You can do all sorts of stuff. I love you guys and hope you're having a great day.